And we are back. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I got Dave Brinker here, and we got Bryce Bishop, and we're continuing our discussion about teepees and setting them up. And we just covered in the last show, floorless, yes or no, why, and we talked about the nest and the bugs, mosquitoes, and various ways to handle that when you're dealing with, a teepee. So the other issue you had mentioned, and is right on point, is setting it up. People have this thing where they're like, it can't handle storms.
Mm-hmm.
It can't handle,
it can't handle where I hunt.
Yep.
Sheep guys.
Especially, for
Sheep
sure.
country.
The alpine hunters.
Yep. And the Alaskans, they just tend to be hard-headed and difficult.
Okay.
They admit it. They know I give them crap in the podcast all the time.
Good.
It's like, I swear.
No, they're tougher. They're tough people.
They are tough,
Yeah,
and they're like,
people.
you guys are all soft.
Yeah.
But truly, that's one of my pet peeves, is to say it can't handle those situations. Dude, Ryan Lampers and I have taken that teepee all over North America, Alaska, any condition you can imagine, New Zealand. We're talking, we pitched it on top of 10 feet of snow. We've pitched it in the middle of massive rain and snowstorms, in heavy 70-mile-an-hour winds. And Lampers, we want to pitch our tent where we can glass the whole world, right?
Yeah.
Which is
ridge
the worst place to ever set up a shelter. Like, you would never build a cabin there. And it's usually in a saddle, right? That is just got wind ripping across the top of it and about to tear it down. And I'm like, are you sure we should do this? And then lightning is striking and hitting trees nearby. And Ryan's like, we got it. It's where we're going to see the deer from.
Yeah.
And so we have put these teepees where typically a guy would never put them. We've run them through the gauntlet. You can set that thing up anywhere. There's not a place you can't set it up. Like, ripping winds. And some of the issues I had with previous brands of teepees we would use, they didn't handle the wind. They didn't handle the conditions. The people who built them didn't build them with the intention of people putting them up in those conditions.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, just go get a dome tent if you're going to do that. My teepee's for this. Well, we didn't do that. Peax has a teepee that has all the guy outs that you need to pitch it in a raging hurricane.
Yeah, for sure. We, last year, I went down to Texas and did an aoudad hunt down there. And not a place you'd probably think of, doing a big mountain hunt, but it was every bit of a big mountain hunt as anything else I've done.
Yeah.
And we had 3 teepees up on this mountain. And just like you said, we found this saddle that we were going to camp in.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see this thunderstorm brewing in the distance. And we got those teepees set up. And when that storm came in, it was ripping 50 to 60 mile an hour sustained winds, lightning, thunder, fog, everything you can imagine, dirt flying everywhere. And our teepee, it was loud, but it just stood there the whole night. With the cross-trek stabilization in and the single point guy outs. It was funny because our outfitter that we were with, he'd never slept in a teepee on a mountain before.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did the best they could setting theirs up. And Jeff Helm and I set ours up perfect, because we've done it a million times. And we just hear this super loud noise next door to us, basically. And I get out, and their teepee's just flapping, right?
Yeah.
And I go over there and I'm like, guys, did you put your trekking poles in the cross-trek stabilization system? And they were like, we don't know what that is. So I went into their teepee and put the trekking poles in.
Yep.
And instantly they were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That was genius, by the way. That design is genius. You kind of have like a dome tent, that freestanding structure when you put the trekking poles in that peak. Not only can you hang a bunch of gear from it, and it can handle a lot of load, but it just withstands the storms and those winds. Like,
yeah, it just cross braces the walls against each other.
And there's I mean, there's actual I'm no scientist, right? But there's actual science as to why teepees are actually quite a good thing to have in a storm. And it has to do, again, I got a 2 point in high school. But it has to do with the lower center of gravity, like the and the conical structure of it all, and how the air flows around it so well. I mean, there's a reason that people lived in these things for hundreds of years.
Well, I can't tell you how many videos I've seen actually of guys using freestanding shelters in a condition like that, and they're just like flat as a pancake,
folded over sideways.
Yeah. Oh, I've had that happen before. I've gotten back to my camp and my tent wasn't even there before, and it was like up the hill, like but it is a common theme, especially amongst those alpine hunters, where they'll say, specifically the sheep crowd, and it trickles into the rest of the Alaska sentiment, right? Because a lot of those guys do hunt sheep.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to pitch that up there. There's no way you're not staking that thing down up there. It's too rocky. That's another one that they say. And then it's not going to withstand the wind. There's no way.
I have enough video and enough hunts that I've been on and stuff that's just a myth. I mean, it's just not true.
Yeah.
I've yet to have the teepee where it didn't go. And it's not like I'm trying to prove a point either. I'm not like trying to prove a point. I refuse to leave fire at home. That's like, I refuse to leave the hot tent at home. And having, experienced it at the height of some of these like negative 15 degree, like below zero temperatures, and the comfort and the safety and stuff that a teepee provides on some of these nasty hunts. And when you're out there 5 days, that's one thing. When you're out there 15 days, that's another. And I have some vices. I like my Mountain Ops Ignite, and I like my Black Flag energy drinks. They are little caffeine, little nootropics, little this and that. It's my it's probably better if I didn't have them, but man, do I like being juiced and jacked and ready to go and energized. So right now, there's a 40% off at Black Flag if you use the code GRITTY. It's their anniversary sale. I'd check it out. They have the little stick packs coming. If they don't have them, they're going to have them very soon. But don't let that hold you back. Get a tub of, I love that Pink Plunder. Other people like that Savage Sunrise. There's like the blue raspberry flavor. I forget what they call it. Maybe Blue Tide or something. It's all kind of pirate themed. It's pretty cool, but use the code GRITTY over there and get yourself some. It's got a nice nootropics caffeine kind of energy blend. It's a nice, even, sort of sustained energy that you get. It's not like drinking a Monster. If you're drinking a Monster energy drink or Red Bull or any of that stuff, get rid of that and get this instead. It's less expensive per serving. It's better for you. I think it performs better on your body. You don't have all these nasty chemicals that you're putting in your body. I mean, it should be criminal what's in a Monster energy drink. So check out Black Flag. Use the code GRITTY right now, and you're going to get 40% off. Stay gritty.
Well, let's talk about that, because that does play into the whole storm thing, right? Like, I know we talked a little bit about the aerodynamics and wind, and let's keep standing. But the thing you got to add in there is your ability to weather a storm, especially a snowstorm, has a lot to do with how freaking cold you are and how wet your stuff is, right? We've all left the mountain early because our boots are frozen, our clothes are frozen. It's just miserable.
Yeah.
And when you got that stove in there, it, like you said earlier, I mean, it opens your eyes. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
We get stuck here in a storm for a couple days. I'm good. I'm reading a book by a fire.
Well, and it's not just heat, right? It's livability. right? Like when you're in one of those little freestanding dome tents, it's like you're in a coffin, right? I mean, there's just no space to move around. You're just hunkered down and you're just laying in your sleeping bag all day for 2 or 3 days.
I had a bunch of guys at the, one of the bear seminars that Livesay and I were doing, the Peax bear seminar. Maybe it was elk. But the question was the same. It usually pops up, and that is they're debating whether to get a Peax teepee or to get a single man shelter that has like a stove option, right? So, and a big part of that is because it's like late season, it's early mule deer, super steep, or it's eat bear or something, and they're like, look, it's so steep, it's hard to. Where would I put a tent like that? Right. I like this idea of just kicking out a deer bed, putting it on a slope. And they're not wrong. When you have steep country like that, the teepee can present a problem. They're not willing to leave fire at home either. So they're looking at a single man shelter. And I'm like, okay, valid. And where we have shook out on this after years and years of having done it all the ways,
right?
We would rather bring a Petzl ride pickaxe and excavate a little spot on the ground for 30 or 40 minutes and pitch our full-size teepee and the stove that comes with it and live in that than pitch those little coffins. They suck. Like, it's so small. And the dude that was asking me about this on the last one, he's like 6'4". I'm like, dude, you crawl into an like a Silex with a stove in it. First of all, you're trying not to burn everything in there because there's no room for you and your gear. And you're going to try to sit up in that. You're not going to. You're going to be so crowded in that thing all day, every day. And so he's like, well, weight, it's a little heavier with the teepee, not by much.
Yeah, no.
And if you go with Dyneema, which is a significant investment, but the weight issue becomes, it's just not an issue. You really do shave for a solo guy. It's hard to beat. Buy once, cry once. And now you've got that lightweight setup that gives you all the space in the world, and all it requires is a little excavation to get you there. Yeah. And it is, we just do that now. We almost never bring a single man shelter.
The other thing people rarely think about with the fire is we always think about the warmth, but we talk about a lot the actual, probably the second best benefit of a fire is it keeps your mind occupied. And there's actually, I'm bringing the science today, guys. There's actually science to show that it actually calms your nerves.
Oh, yeah.
It calms anxiety, and it gives you a job in stressful environments. Because let's be honest, like sometimes it's not fun to be up there and you're stressed out. You just want to go home. And part of that's your anxiety saying, we need to get off this mountain. We might die, whatever it is, I'm scared, whatever. And if you can build a fire and get that thing going and you hear it crackling, it's like you're getting warm.
Well, there's something psychologically too about the like warmth equals protection. And I don't know what that is.
It's not just warmth.
It's just like when you have a fire.
Light. There's just safety. Just, like a human being safety.
Goes that's like, a good word for it.
Yeah. I mean, come on. If you have a fire we've probably been using fire to keep the saber-toothed back at night, like forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You set up a ring of fires, I mean, just like there's no question that fire there's something really deeply ingrained in the human psyche about it.
And you look forward to getting there at night.
Like, it's more than that though, Dave. It's the safety of it is so critical. Not too long ago, I was watching a guy I really respect do a hunt, and then and I watched him, and I'm like, man, he's a good hunter. And like I said before, the backcountry skills were not very dialed in, and it was a sufferfest. Freezing, cold, wet. Another guy I saw do this is how you handle super cold weather hunts. And in that video, it's like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. It never mentions fire, not once. Doesn't mention wood stove or hot tents. It doesn't talk about
I mean, those are the guys that are talking about boiling water and putting it in your Nalgene and throwing it in the bottom of your sleeping bag, and that's how they're trying to stay warm.
Newspapers stuffed in to dry out your boots. They were talking about your boots just get wetter and wetter every day as you're wearing very insulated, thick boots to stay warm, and you're sweating because you're hiking. And part of the videos were like, hey, take it slower. Get your layers off because you can't afford to drench your clothing in sweat because you've got no way to dry them out except your own body. And so this is very dangerous. So this is how you layer. And then by the time you get to the top where the sheep are, it is so, the philosophy around it is so 20 years ago. It baffles my mind that it's still brought forward and taught as a
it probably dates back further than that to the invention of fire.
Because I'm sitting here going, everything you recommended, bump, is all the result of no hot tent. Everything stems from the fact you have no hot tent.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. Safety's probably number one for sure.
Hey folks, pardon the interruption, but I've got to tell you about this new Tricer RP bipod for your rifle. This thing is incredible. It's going to take the market by storm. You're going to want one. Everyone will. It's like no other bipod on the market. It's been designed to do everything in one bipod, which is generally not what we have available to us on the market today. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer and you will save. Whether you're shooting from a prone or sitting position, this bipod adapts seamlessly to every field environment. You're going to get rock solid stability when it matters most. This bipod includes everything for $2.99. You've got the long legs, the short legs, you got spikes, you got rubber feet, Arca Swiss, Picatinny compatible, plus a swivel stud to Picatinny adapter, giving you unmatched flexibility for any hunting scenario. Bottom line, this is the last bipod you'll ever need. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer.com. You'll get a discount and you'll get the last bipod you'll ever need. All right, let's get back to the show.
I don't discredit what Dave's saying either, though, about like sometimes after like a hard day's hunt when it's been raining all day or whatever and you get back, there's just something about heat and fire just rejuvenate, renews.
Well, and it's even,
body.
I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little too deep here, but it's also purpose, right? Sometimes, especially if you're by yourself and it gets dark at 5:30, you're laying there going, like, and it gets lonely. It gets weird. It gets weird. And having to get wood, stack it up, keep the fire going, it gives you a sense of purpose. And again, it's that
human, dude.
It's that calming effect.
There's no question. I would say like the difference between a guy that suffers and the guy that brings the stove. Every day you get back, you're rejuvenated, you're warm,
you rest well,
you watch the fire. It's like, I did a lot of solo hunts, just me and the teepee and the wood stove. And I just stare at the fire burning for hours. And it sounds crazy, but
no, we've been doing that for thousands of years.
I'm tired and there's so much comfort in it and it would rejuvenate me for the next day. Yeah. There's no question in the past, it would have been really hard to get up the next morning.
Yeah, for
and the colder that it gets, the more intense that feeling of oppression and danger, and your clothes slowly get damp every day too.
Oh yeah.
And your boots getting wet inside and filling up with water, that's permanent.
And then freezing
when you don't have you don't have a stove. It's permanent. It's permanent.
Yeah.
And that's how you get really hurt too. I just don't understand it. You have a stove and you have like rack saw boot dryers. Your boots are always dry. There's a hunt I went on years ago. I got separated from Ryan. I had gone after this big buck and he was skinning one. And I'm like, I'm going. And I knew it was like the storm was rolling and it was nasty, nasty. And I'm like, but it's the second to the last day of the season. By the next day, the storm was going to be here and you're not going to see anything. It was just all torrential downpours and and blizzard. And I'm like, I think I can make it, but I know I'm going to be shooting right at last light. And when I come back, it's cliffs and dark, but I've got 2 Peax headlamps with me, and I've got, couple GPS maps on my phone and know where I'm at. And I know that I have a hot tent about 1.5 miles down this mountain.
Yeah.
And I also have matches, and I could start a fire and I could try to hold out the night. Rain gear's mediocre, and it doesn't really keep you. I mean, gosh, I've yet to have a rain. I sweat so much, And so we get up there, and I get up there, and I have this buck in my crosshairs, and he's nice. And I'm like, he's not that nice. He's not that nice for this, And so I didn't shoot him. But it got dark, and I was a long way now from Ryan as I chased this thing up the mountain. And I am looking down the mountain, and it is the most nasty. There's slots, there's nasty cuts, there's cliffs. I mean, it's imagine you're a treacherous, Yeah. I throw on that Peax headlamp and I start going down. That storm hits, and it is coming down like buckets, like the river is swelling up and it's flash flooding, and I'm like, I'm looking around and make sure like no rock slides hit me and stuff, and I'm making my way down. And the inReach isn't really working with those clouds, in the storm. So Ryan doesn't know where I'm at or whatever. And I just get my way down, and hours later, I remember getting about halfway there, and it's like, I am soaked. I'm so wet. I'm like, but who cares? It's just work. I'm going to be at that stove, and Ryan's going to have that thing cranking.
Yeah.
And it was just such a comforting thing to know that I have that resource down there in this kind of storm, and I'm wet. There's really not much left to wear or to use. What if I didn't have a stove? And if I didn't, I would have pulled out the tarp. I would have found a spot. I would have made sure I didn't get wet, because you have to. I would have probably started a fire on the ground, and I would have just stayed up all night, and I would have survived, but I certainly wouldn't have allowed myself to get wet and go all the way back to camp. I roll into camp, and literally like I might as well have been dipped in a lake, And I come outside the door, and I strip naked, and that stove is raging. I just go full buck, and I crawl in there, and it's like, just heat. I sit on my bag. My clothes are so wet. I'm wringing them out, and then I'm hanging them up above in the cross trekker design, trying to dry out my stuff. And by morning, everything was dry, and my boots were dry through boot dryers. Everything was bone dry, good to go, reset. I could have cruised back up there if it wasn't still raining, and probably killed that buck or a different buck. And those are the sort of things you don't get if you don't have a wood stove. You're not hunting the next day. If you wanted to, you're not. You're too cold, frozen, you're wet. You got to wait a day or two. You lose opportunities.
Yeah.
That you don't lose when you have the stove.
100%.
And the other thing that people say, this is the most common excuse I hear for the Alaskans and the above alpine guys, the alpine guys. There's no wood to burn. Like, why would I bring that? There's no wood to burn. And I asked Lampers that. I'm like, Ryan, on any of these hunts, and I named a few, if you were going and you were hunting this critter on these mountains, would you leave a stove and teepee behind? He's like, hell no. Not a single one. And here's the difference, just in our logic. Even if there was no wood up there, like in New Zealand, there was no wood up there. And we weren't packing wood up a straight cliff, which was what we did, basically. But we still brought the same shelter. We didn't burn wood. But 2 days later, we were down where there is wood, and we were able to dry out. And we were on our way to a different spot for some tar over here. We could leverage wood, not every day, but a lot of days.
Yeah.
And the idea of leaving it because you can't use wood for a day or two, it's insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, you can always fall back and use wood.
There's usually wood down the hill a bit.
And you can always go down. That's the other thing is if you're going to be glassing up here for like goats or bighorn and you're up in this snow line and there's no wood there, one of us would just drop down and grab like a backpack full of wood and haul up 60, 70 pounds of wood. There's a lot of mountaintops where we have piles of wood sitting there, and we would then sit there for 3 or 4 days glassing in comfort in a hot tent. I don't understand it. I don't understand the can't be bothered with it or whatever. It's like you said, what else are you going to do half the time? You're sitting around.
My brother Patrick, which you know him.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know Patrick too. He's getting ready to do a caribou hunt with his sons. He's got a son coming home from his mission, and he's wanting to do this father-son's trip. And he's pretty concerned about not having wood to burn where they're going. So he actually has been testing out those, I don't know what they are, those logs that you can buy at the store.
Flames or
right, and they'll burn for like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. So he actually just tested that in the stove a couple of weeks ago, and he said the stove did great with one of those in it. It burned for 3 hours or 4 hours, and he dried out. He soaked some pants. He soaked his boots. He put them up in the top of the teepee, lit one of those logs in the stove, and he said he had heat for like 4 hours.
Yep.
And I think it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 pounds for one of those really dense bricks of that. But I'm like, if you really need that, there's options to take something with you that you can have fire.
Yeah, I'd say if you were backpacking in 20 miles to the base of the hill and then you're climbing from there, it's like, no.
Yeah, no. But where they were at, they're going to be 5 miles off the road.
Yeah, when I was with Tim Lesser with Leupold and Kramer and Foss and stuff when we were on Kodiak, Kramer just brought in, when we landed on the little lakes there, they brought in, because it's mostly tundra.
Sure.
There was wood there, but he just brought in those same logs and he calculated, okay, we're hunting 10 days. I need 1 log in the morning and 1 at night, 20 of these. And he cut them so they fit the stove and burned, like you said, calculated it. And it was just part of landing the plane and setting up the base camp. Same thing we thought about. Lampers and I talked about the same thing, going in on a few spots in New Zealand where we would actually bring a few of those with us for at least the base camp at the bottom.
Right.
Some of these areas where they have huts, there's no dead wood. Everybody and their dog has burned it for the last 50 years. There's not any dead wood. Every scrap has been burned. And so a lot of those huts have wood in them, though. Like people bring some wood in every time they go. I mean, they're really cool there, the way they like supply the lodges. Everybody tries to save some for the next guy or bring stuff in for the next guy, and saved our butts a couple of times. But there's no doubt, like, getting wood into places is not as hard as people think. There's almost everywhere we have ever been, we can derive wood out of the landscape. Even in places where they say it's not there, there's wood there. Where we hunt mule deer lots of times in like the plains areas, you're just like, it's grass and hills as far as you can see in snow. No, there's little holes and little cuts, and there's like juniper brush and little dense hardwoods and little, straggly like mahoganies, and you can grab that stuff. And we'll be out. I remember hunting with Mark once, and it was so cold. Eli was there.
Oh, I remember that. Huh?
And there was no wood, but we were on our way up, after some elk, and we're like, oh, there's a dead tree right there. Marked it on the GPS, like a little dead, wood that was perfect for burning. And then on our way back, we made a little like slight detour. We cut up that little log. Each guy carried a few in his backpack, and we hiked back that mile back to camp. And we burned that log for the next 2 or 3 days and had fire. And it was 0 degrees, 5 degrees. When I was with like Sylvester and Lampers, we would find wood same way. We'd be out chasing muleys, and then we're like, just as we're out hunting, we go, oh, there's a log. we'd cut it up and throw it in our bags and just some dead wood.
Even where I stone sheep hunted in BC, I mean, obviously we're way up in the alpine hunting those sheep, but 1,000 foot below us at almost all times.
There's wood, tons of it.
I mean, more than you want, because when you start walking through it, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. And 1,000 feet climb with a 50-pound pack kind of sucks.
And sometimes it's further than that, but a lot of times it wouldn't be like, if you really needed it, you could get it. Like,
absolutely. Like if you got a buddy that's glassing the whole basin, like, okay, a guy should go down, grab a 50-pound load and bring it up. Even if you don't burn it that day,
sure,
it's just there. And it's just, that's how Ryan and I operate. It's just efficient. One guy will glass, one guy will get stuff. We'll take turns. Same with water. You'll drop down, get some water and come back up. It's like when you want those strategic outposts and you want to set up there because that's where you want to be, you know, you cart a few extra things up there to it. But
sure, people do it with water all the time.
Yeah, you can make it work. And the wood thing and the fire is just a massive, massive game changer.
Yeah. So to sum it all up, it not only is okay in a storm, it may actually keep you out there longer.
Oh, it does.
Oh, absolutely.
Not may, it does.
Yeah.
The storm is irrelevant. It doesn't it doesn't fall down or struggle any more than any other tent does. The idea that it can't handle a heavy duty storm, that's just irrelevant. It can handle it. We put it through them. And then you add the fact that you have fire as an option. The weight is not really an argument either. They often weigh less than like a Hilleberg. Most of these guys are packing a Hilleberg, and I'm like, you're insane.
That's crazy.
You're insane.
It's so heavy.
But that's what they're thinking in their mind they need for those heavy duty mountain hunts, but you don't.
Right.
You don't.
Well, it's legacy.
And the thing is a boot dryer doesn't work without ambient heat. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, especially with heavy insulated boots for that time of year and how much I sweat, the boot thing becomes a problem, man. A major problem.
Yeah.
And if you slip and get wet, it's a huge problem if you can't dry it out. The whole time you're struggling. Your boot
whole trip.
Freezes into a hard rock.
Yeah.
I remember being in BC with Dustin Rowe, Green Tree, and that happened. Boots got wet. Well, we didn't have boot dryers, but I had full grain leather, fully like heavy insulated boots. I couldn't get them to dry inside, even though we had stove going inside and the room was hot.
Mm-hmm.
The frickin' boot wouldn't dry inside. I had no way to put air into it. And so you're trying to get it closer to the stove, and then it just shrinks that leather.
Yeah.
And now the boot's so tight, it's cutting off circulation. Your boot's ruined.
Yeah.
So the boot dryer with ambient heat in the teepee is brilliant. And you can now just thrive. I would never leave that. That's part of that kit. I said this the other day when I was doing a pack dump to a group of people in the seminar. And I'm like, think of backpacking as a system. If I was out and the zombie apocalypse came and I didn't have a stove, and then I'd probably want that gay Sitka sleeping bag that's like insulated and with synthetic and all this other stuff, and it's heavier and it doesn't get as compact.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, well, that is great for the KUIU slick bag. I'd probably grab that if I was in the military and I didn't have a system, but I do. So I want down.
Yeah.
I want down, and I want it to shrink to the size of a little tiny, tiny, tiny pop can or loaf of bread or something. I want the breathability of the down. I want the comfort of it. And I can, because guess what? I have a teepee with a stove. And if my down gets a little damp, it'll get dried out because I have that. And I have the teepee and stove, right? So I can afford to bring the sleeping bag that weighs half as much as I would if I didn't have a teepee and stove, and I might die out there if I don't have a synthetic filled bag that's way heavier and doesn't breathe as well. And you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a system. So for me, it's like, I look at all this gear, the boot dryers and so on, like it's all a system that works together. And I can bring this sleeping bag because I have this deal over here. I can bring this pair of boots because I have this setup over here. These clothing, it's all part of the same. They all work together to create the ultimate weight versus performance ratio.
Yeah.
One last story I'll tell you. I was watching back to this Dustin Rowe, Tanis and Doran. I love those guys. Talk about they're Canadian.
They're hilarious.
They're incredible. They're guides for Dustin all these years, backcountry BC and beyond. And I was watching them, and this is a classic example of what I have seen. They're out, they're going after a sheep or a goat, and in the Cassiar Mountains, it's just brush and all that kind of stuff. But then there's the mountain and the goat's on the top, and you got to go up there. But the whole way there, you got to cross a river. You got to do this, and they didn't have horses. I think they left them back because they're going to be on the top. They don't have boot dryers. They're wearing Scarpa boots, super thick, heavy soled, boots, and they have to cross a river. It's a bit of a fast river, so no one's taking their boots off. They're just going to get them wet. This is September in British Columbia near the Yukon. This is not warm days,
Right.
And so they know where the goat is, and they're like, we got to just go gamble. They're in there knee deep, boots soaking wet. Everybody's boots are drenched. They have a dome tent, the Hilleberg. They pitch it, at the base of the hill. No fire, no hot tent. They suffer. All their boots are wet. Their socks are trying to do the best they can. Next day, they all put wet gear back on. They climb up. They're cold because their feet are soaked. They're trying to kill some, and it's a suffer fest. And then later they come back down and they go back across, same thing. And by then they've I think 6 or 7 days, and it's sucked. All because of the kit. Because you could do the same thing, and hey, I'll cross a river and get my boots soaked. On the other side, when I'm pitched up at the base of the hill, I've got a wood stove. My boots are bone dry by morning.
Yeah.
Socks are bone dry. Everything is. It weighs less. I'm loaded up. I'm after that goat. I can pitch that teepee up there just as easily as I can pitch the dome tent. Then you come back down. I'll have to rock it out. I'll put rocks all around it, put it on the stakes. Ryan and I have done things where, it is a situation. And I'll do this with a dome tent too. But we'll set those shelters up, and we will build a 3 or 4 foot wall around the teepee. And we've done that. If I was up there and I was really worried about a storm and stuff, and I rocked it out and it was sort of sandy-ish ground or whatever, I put giant boulders on every stake. I would stack boulders up and grab dead logs or whatever we got, and we would build a 2-foot barricade or something that just blocks that wind a little bit as it's ripping across. We've become quite the shelter builders, and the teepee. We're willing to do all of that little extra because we want the fire and what it offers and the space.
Well, and you also want to stay on the mountain.
Yes.
Right. You don't want anything that's going to drive you off the mountain.
And so I'm just cheesing the Canadians and the Alaskans a little bit. Many have adopted the setup, but
sure.
When I went out there with Chris years ago and we were hunting Grizz.
Oh yeah.
He's like, poo-pooed my teepee and fire and stuff. And I was like, I ain't leaving it, bro. We got a big old teepee and a stove, and we're going. And you're just gonna bring your little dome tent. I don't care, but I ain't using it. And he's like, oh. We went out there, and the first day we pitched that thing up, and it's a gnarly day. It snowed that night. We got it going. We had the wood stove in there. Everybody's kicked back, and he's like, he wouldn't stop talking about how incredible it was. And the whole week we hunted. Yeah. Mosquitoes were out. They'd die. We had a little backpacker. The whole thing went all the way. And we were just doing what we always do.
Sure.
He is a guide. He guides he does all this stuff year round. Mm-hmm. Nobody out there brings that hot tent. Nobody does it. Sheep, it doesn't matter, whatever the hunt is. He came back from that hunt, bought all the stuff, and never leaves home without it. And that's what it takes. Just one
experience.
Yeah. I got to send Tanis and Doran. They have hot tents. I know they do, but they're sort of the older version. I forget what that, not Hyperlight. I don't think they even put heat in theirs. One of the other ones with the terrible seams and stuff. Heavy, kind of not the best. Stoves are a bit heavy.
Well, they need some Peax.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And I just am like, you get that and you use it. I swear it's hard to get them to be believers, but once they see someone skilled at setting one up and running a stove, they're believers, man.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had one person that I've taken into a teepee with the stove that hasn't left that experience going, oh yeah, I'm doing that.
That float trip that Lampers and I did with Chris, he had done it the year before or 2 years before with dudes that had been doing it for 20 years in a row, old guys. And then he did it with us with the stove. Yeah. This is all his own stuff. He had the Big Mama and on like the real fire, the real like burner. And we did it with that. And like I said, we didn't have to bring one. He had the whole kit. And dude, he had it raging every day. We had cots. He's like, dude, you guys, when we did this last time with the old dudes, we suffered. We were wet. We were cold. Nothing dried out.
Yeah.
And it was like a 10-day floater. And you get wet just being on that river. And he's like, night and day. He's like, those old guys said that was our last year. They're never doing it again. He's like, I actually think they might. If they had this kind of setup, they might go, I could do it another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I ranted quite a bit about, again, but it's just so, become good at it. It's a tool.
Yeah. And it takes practice. You know, I tell everybody, if you're just going to do it one time, you're not going to really understand the benefit of a teepee. Like you've got to use it, gain knowledge and experience, become a better woodsman.
Fire making too, like the stove. Sure. I've been around people that can't get it to rip, can't get it to start quickly, can't get it to, they're not good fire builders and stokers. They don't understand drafting and how a wood stove really works. And so I actually did like an hour-long video on, you know, how to efficiently, all the ins and outs of wood stove and wood stove burning. And it's a good one. It's not the Peax Torrid stove, though. We need to work on a new version now that we have that design.
Yeah.
Do another updated. But, man, there are nuances to it. And if you I grew up with a wood stove in Oregon City, Oregon. And my dad was a trucker. He cut cords of log fire, and then he'd leave at he worked the graveyard shift. It was my job to light the fire every day.
Dude, I as a kid, my dad would have cords of wood dropped in the driveway. That's all we did was just chop and stack wood.
That's my whole childhood. And I swear, like wood burning, if you grew up like that, you kind of have this intuitive nature around a wood stove.
Yeah.
It's just a little mini version of the same thing. But if you didn't grow up with that, I could see how you just fire in a box. You could just smother it, don't get it to draft.
Sure.
You know, all these things about it that you don't understand. And a little bit of time and you'd have it dialed in.
Yeah.
So I think we covered the
there's no reason not to have a hot tent.
Yeah.
There's no, and
footprint.
There's no condition, terrain, storm, anything that
you could argue. I'm sure there is some Mount Everest argument, you know, but for hunting,
or hunters,
I'd say for hunting, like wherever those animals are, I mean, like they're near some sort of situation where the teepee works great. Maybe in a non-hunting scenario, you could be like, what's the point? There truly is no wood anywhere. but
maybe
North Pole,
Antarctica.
There's somebody out there who's going to be like, you can't use it here.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. You're probably right. But for hunting, it's hard for me to derive a scenario where I wouldn't use it. And I just want to see other guys that just thrive out there.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Thrive. And you can. There's no reason why you can't. You can get a hunt done, without it.
Sure.
You didn't thrive. That's the difference between Brian Call now and Brian Call 10 years ago in the mountains is I don't lose weight. I'm not malnourished. I'm not too tired. Every day is a fresh, brand new day. I'm warm. I'm not near frostbite. I'm not suffering.
Yeah.
That's actually originally why we came up with this thrive concept when we were talking about when we first started this whole thing
with Peax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because we come from an industry where you're actually celebrated the more you suffer.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I slept on the ground when I moved to Bozeman, legitimately.
That's why the Alaskans aren't going to take the hot tent. I'm telling you.
Legitimately, when I moved to Montana, I never hear about this type of stuff anymore, but I had friends that were literally packing in. Yeah, I just take a puffy coat and I just sleep in a deer bed.
In a pair of jeans.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, how many nights can you do that? You get one night out of that, and you literally pulled an all night. You're not going to last 5-10 days doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we started really riffing on this idea of we're all tough guys,
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at and one thing I really started noticing as I got older and especially started hunting around really, really, really tight, great hunters.
Yeah.
It's always the same thing. They have a high hunt IQ. And that's not just around the knowledge of the species, making the shot, all that too, but also in how they stay out there. They have the perfect kit.
Yeah.
And most of those guys, I'll never forget when Ryan Lampers told me, I said, dude, how do you stay you just seem like you're never suffering much. He goes, I never suffer.
Other than a little exertion,
Yeah, of course. It's still hard.
You're still hunting.
But
he's not the
discomfort isn't really pronounced.
No, you don't have to. So this thrive thing is really you can actually thrive back there to where if you go home, when you go home, I guess, hopefully it's never early and because you have wet stuff, you're sleep deprived, malnourished, dehydrated, whatever.
Yeah.
If you have the right kit, you're just great, man. Yes, it's hard. You're still exerting yourself. Yes, it's frustrating. You're not getting the animal. It's still a hard thing to do. No one's saying that that's not the case, but you're cutting out those other variables that make it unbearable.
Yeah. One of the videos I was sort of complaining about when it was talking about this is the gear and how we do it, they kind of started out with, look, before I even get into this, I just want you to know when you're hunting in these conditions, there's nothing you can really do about it. You just are going to suffer a lot. And it's really mental, and you're just going to have to just deal with wet, cold, freezing to death. But with that said, here are some tips. And it was no, most of that's not true.
Yeah.
Anymore. It's just not. You just haven't moved up to current thriving condition gear.
Livesay always talks about the odds multiplier when he's talking about e-scouting and all his stuff. The same thing applies to gear, right? If you have the right kit and it's dialed in, that's an odds multiplier in and of itself because it just is going to keep you out on the mountain, keep you more comfortable, keep your head in the game. That's probably contributing more to your success or equal to it than anything else.
I'm getting ready to launch the Dueling Pistols podcast that I've been creating, which is, about history, and you're reading about Kit Carson and all these old timey people, they were thriving. They had their bed rolls and they had their fire and their setups, and those Indians that were cruising around, they weren't miserable. They weren't barely getting, they had their woodcraft figured out.
Yeah.
They had some woodsman skills, and they knew things that we don't know anymore. we have different technology than they did, but you can bet like the difference between, this is why some dude comes from back east, rolls out into the west, and he dies a week after he's been here. And the Indian's like, he died? He died?
One night?
Like one night?
In the
Like
winter?
He really didn't know anything.
In Dances with Wolves, one of the scenes is when one of the Pawnee, I think it's one of the Pawnee. Yeah. They're like, that white man couldn't even survive one winter here.
Yeah.
This is soft, right? When you first start jujitsu,
yeah,
and someone gets on top of you, especially that's bigger than you, and smothers you, you tap immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through the course of years or months as you progress, what you learn is the whole game is taking the edge off to where you can survive. And then eventually, once you're a black belt, you can thrive, especially against people that are unexperienced. But I think about that a lot in terms of what we do.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, because when I first went in there, the first guy that taught me, I'm like, oh, I can't breathe. I'm going to die.
Right.
But now I've been 2.5 years in, just about anybody in our gym can get on top of me and try to smother me, and I won't tap from that. It's called, pressure tap. I'll tap from normal submissions, but I will not tap. Just my coach is going to be listening to this. He'll be like, you get your ass back in. There is one guy that probably can do it. But the point is you figure out systems and processes and little things you can do to take that edge off just enough to where you're not only surviving, but like now when certain people I get in bad positions and it's certain people, I'm like, I'm still good, man. I'm good. Yes, it's cold. Yes, the wind's blowing. Yes, the hunting sucks. Yes, I want to go home, like, because I miss my family. All those things will never go away.
Yep.
But you know what? I'm good. I'm not tapping out. I'm staying another day. I'm not tapping out.
It starts to become just enjoyable. Remember when we went out and we were looking for that elk?
Yes.
And it was late. It was cold. And
I do. I remember it very clearly because it's just, we were pretty calm. We built a huge fire. We're eating good food. We got you just
relaxed.
We were like, yeah, we'll go look for the bull here pretty soon.
Set a bonfire. And we're like in the mountains. It was cold.
It was not a good situation. Yeah. We had a potentially hit bull 3.5 miles straight downhill from any road in the middle of the night, dead of the winter. Like, it wasn't a great situation, but we, via having the right equipment and the right mindset, and also because he knew where one little puddle of water was, we were totally fine. And actually, we were having a good time. Whereas 10, 15, 20 years ago, it would actually, well, first of all, you probably wouldn't even have gone down the mountain and tried to shoot this elk.
They'd have been scared.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been a smart decision. It would have been a bad idea.
But for us, it was just another day. It was no different than just cruising around at camp, like by the travel trailer, or whatever, because you're so comfortable in that backcountry. You just know that you can handle things, deal with it. And
worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to stay here at night by our bonfire, and we're warm, drying stuff out, laughing, telling stories. It's almost like we were at like a campground, but we were like in the miserable hellhole with like oak brush over your head.
That's what I mean. Like, no longer do I ever experience that. I mean, you could drop me in the middle of nowhere and I feel right at home. And that's how I equate mountain men and Native American Indians and the stuff I've been reading about. It's like, they just felt like normal, just right at home. You can drop me off in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. Just, we'll see you in 14 days. And I'm like,
okay.
Like, I'm just as comfortable each day there as I am walking in my backyard on a hill, Yeah. And that just comes from that experience and having the equipment that, I mean, I don't want to look, I don't hold a candle to, I'm where I'm at because of the tech I get to use today.
Well,
I had to find my way,
Jeremiah Johnson,
dude. If I had to find my way back like Daniel Boone, I'd be screwed. I have no sense of direction. Like, it ain't my strength, and things like that. Where I'm under no illusions. I'm not trying to like say I'm the next explorer, but within the tools that we have today, incorporating those into my life and understanding them, I have now become just proficient and comfortable in a way that send it all to me, you know.
Yeah.
Take away some things, you know, and that's next level.
It's almost like an airplane. There is flight critical things. If you don't have something, right?
Yeah.
A way to start a fire, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm no Clay
Hayes.
I'm not making a fire out of 2 sticks. You know,
man.
I want to work on it, and I do watch a lot of Clay, and I'm like, okay, you need that skill set and that, but there's levels. There's levels.
I
to
survive
this.
on pyro putty.
Yes.
I have 5 lighters and of all different types, multiple GPS units.
Yeah,
redundancy. Yeah, and I try to make smart choices so I don't get separated from those sorts of things.
I do think technology has, because it's so efficient, like just for example, tracks on Onyx, like the ability to walk in and out in the dark and have zero chance of getting lost because you're just literally walking on your blue dotted line.
Yeah.
Whereas you go back just even 15 years, you had to know, like I was raised to go, okay, I'm looking behind me. Always look behind me because the landmarks change when you turn around. So when I'm walking out, I can be like, oh yeah, that root water right there, we take a right here. There's the creek. And then you knew that you had like a macro understanding of, okay, I know that if worse comes to worse, I go north, there's a highway, I go south, there's a logging road.
Right.
I can get out of here. I have a compass.
I have a compass. I can walk on a straight line.
Yes. Those skill sets with a lot of people don't exist because they don't need to anymore, really.
Yeah.
But I think about that often. If I drop my phone in a river and I lose my Onyx and I'm hiking out somewhere at night, and you know, we all feel pretty confident, but we do get a lot of help from that stuff. And
we do.
I mean, I have personally been turned around. I've never been lost to where I have to stay out, but I've been turned around several times in my life. Actually, one time in a river bottom here in Montana, tracking a whitetail that I'd shot. I was blood trailing it, and you start blood trailing, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're like, it's all flat cottonwoods, you know, and you know, it was like a couple hours of doing this, but still,
it's annoying and it's frustrating.
Well, and it could get like after a couple hours, you're like, okay, well,
that's how Oregon is.
Yes.
You know, I hunted so much in Oregon growing up, and every damn thing looks the same in the woods. You know, especially if it's fairly flat and dense and you've gone a long way and you're like, there's not, like when I got to Colorado, I'd be like, well, yeah, I can see the mountain there and I can see you have these landmarks that are, it's barren enough and steep enough. Like you're not lost. In Oregon, I could be lost sometimes. Like, where the hell am I?
Oh, 100%, especially at night.
Yeah.
Night tricks your mind, man. It starts playing tricks on you and it can really screw with you. And I mean, dude, when I'm hiking at night now, I am glued to my tracks, especially if you have specific routes. Like this area I was hunting last year, this bowl, it was cliffy. You had to go through like a half mile of this cliffy area and you had to be right on it. Otherwise you're going to be like, ooh, there's the edge. But man, if I didn't have that stuff, I don't know that I would actually have even hunted that. Well, I would have just walked in the daylight. There's no way that I could mentally remember all the little turns because it looks so different at night, especially if it's foggy.
No doubt.
Well, and a lot of times you're like, okay, daylight's ending. I got an hour. I got to leave now because I got to be able to get out of here before it gets dark.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting to the last light
minute
where you're going to get an opportunity. Like,
well, and with Onyx now, I mean, unless there's just nothing going on, I just hunt until dark and figure it out.
No, there's no question. Like the freedom we have, even with satellite communications.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm not even using the inReach half the time.
I know.
I'm just using my iPhone.
I know. It's crazy.
I know. Once they improve that,
dude,
it's a little slow right now.
Yeah, a little bit, but you can see where it's headed, and pretty soon, I mean, what a wild time.
Yeah, it is going to be.
And then you have AI, and they're going to be like, the animal will always be in this basin this time of day. Because
well, you joke about
satellite imagery has told us, and it's like,
I mean, the next level of e-scouting is going to be AI.
AI is going to be like,
you're going to say,
you should go here on this day.
That's right.
The snow is usually receded here by this day. The bears like to eat.
There's a nice 7-point bull elk that comes to this basin on Wednesdays.
Oh boy,
take Mark's.
Well, and that actually is the cool thing about what we've been talking about. The technologies, yes, they're technologies, but they've been around for thousands. Like fire is literally like it's why we're humans. Like if you ever watched that documentary on Netflix, but we're not talking about like using AI to make your mountain experience better. We're talking about literally a shelter and a fire. And that's it's so simple and it's light. It's like 7.5 pounds or whatever it is altogether.
Yeah.
And it can make your life so much better.
It's funny that we abandoned all that stuff at some point in favor of ultralight gear that was more compact.
The market drives the invention, right?
Yeah.
And the market, like I said before, the mass market doesn't do what we do.
Yeah, true.
And so, it's sort of like, do you start an outdoor company that services the East Coast whitetail hunting crowd, or do you do one for the West?
Right.
Yeah. Because the masses that so often, the demand comes from, it's like, do you serve the Chinese market or the U.S. market? If you're NBA, I mean, at some point, the giant market is the one that gets the attention.
Yeah. And
it's not till later that the secondary and tertiary markets sort of come online. But you're absolutely right. For years, we were all us backpack hunters were just snagging stuff from all the typical mountaineering outdoor companies because the technical apparel, I mean, Brinker, you were at the forefront of it. Both Jonathan and Jason Hairston, both of those guys they saw Arc'teryx. They saw these companies that were coming out with apparel and technical clothing. And then they looked at the camouflage market and the hunting market and the materials that were there, and it just didn't compare. I mean, the hunting market was just completely underserved with that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Now I would say, I've been looking at some of the places I'm going to go and this summer just with the kids and stuff. And I'm like, there's a mainstream audience out there that if they knew about the Peax teepee, or headlamp, if they knew about the initial scent pack, they'd be like, screw this REI brand, screw it. Because I think that there's a lot happening in the hunting industry that is being invented and making it's like cutting edge, for which I just keep waiting for, Big Agnes to have their first hot tent hit the market.
I mean, they did just make their first kind of teepee-ish.
Yeah. I'm
but
just saying.
It's not great. It's
at some point, these industries are going to see the innovations being made over here, and they're going to rip it off and mass produce it for the.
Well, that'd be too bad for them because we have the patents to it.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a wild time. I love it. I love how footloose and free I am and where I can go. And a pack raft. Talk about a wild 5 pounds. And I can float rivers and cross rivers and go into remote regions. I remember when I was carting in like a 30-pound Walmart raft. One time I packed a 50-pound raft to cross a river. And it was it was about, by the time we got the paddles, the raft itself was 35 pounds. It was a Watermaster.
No way.
2 oars that went inside.
Yeah.
And we only hiked it down into the river, and crossed and then stashed it. There was no packing it around.
Yeah, for sure.
That first video we did at Lusk fell in the river.
That's crazy.
But
this is what we're talking about right now that we've kind of evolved into is the whole reason we're doing this giveaway with the Cyber Beast.
Oh yeah.
Is we knew it was going to be disruptive and there was going to be hate and all these things. And we never said it was the best hunting truck ever. The whole point of why we're doing it is to showcase innovation. It's like a symbol of innovation. Look at this crazy, some would say ugly thing here that Elon, one of the greatest innovators of multiple generations, not just our generation, because we are so interested in finding these things that we can do to make the experience better. Innovation inspires us. That was the whole idea of the project.
What's so interesting about that is that when that innovation, you know, it's like, I remember when the Garmin Zero came out, you know,
the sight
that mounts to your bow and it ranges for you while you're at full draw and gives you a pin and all of that. When it first came out, man, people hated it. There were people who just were like so against it. I think anytime something is super innovative and new and different, it is often very slow to be adopted.
It doesn't help when the person that owns the company launches Doge and all the other stuff that happened at the same time.
But at the same time, though, I hated the look of the thing until I drove it, till I got around it, till I was, you know, until I saw other aspects of it. I wasn't interested in it at all. And it goes back to, I always use this quote, like Steve Jobs, people don't know what they want until you tell them. I didn't know I wanted an iPod. I didn't know I wanted a phone that had all my music in it. I didn't know.
You didn't know that you wanted to hunt with an iPhone. I did your Onyx maps and your.
You figure these things out later, but this is, to me, the Cybertruck is one of those things where I was like, not interested until much later, until I was more educated and had my hands on it, and it's like, okay, well, gosh dang, there will be a time when people look back and they'll be like, they'll look back and 100%. They'll think, I can't believe I was so slow to adopt this.
Well, and I think what happens is you have these people that just kind of blow the doors down, boom, with these innovations that are so crazy and wacky.
Ahead of their time.
Yes, they're ahead of their time a bit. But someday it may not be the Cybertruck where we're like, well, maybe we'll still be like,
there'll be elements of that Cybertruck.
But most of the innovations that come are because of Tesla. Yeah. I mean, they are. In the automotive industry, I don't care what anybody said. The innovations of the next 20 years will be because he blew the doors down.
Robot?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm buying one, man.
Yeah, dude, that's how we're going to ship packages at Peax.
Well, that too, but I mean, I was thinking more, do my dishes, vacuum my house.
Things it's getting crazy. I got to say, like this Event Horizon where like AI can, like, there's a point at which this technology is as smart as we are, you know?
Sure, for sure.
But then it gets to that point where it can invent a rocket that we've never even dreamed of.
Right.
Because its ability to invent and grow and come up with solutions is so much more. It's going to pass us.
Yeah.
And then
that's how we'll get to Mars.
That's why it's not so incredible that, like you said, like going to Mars or something like that can't happen, because you think about how quickly we today invent new things.
Yeah.
But if you had a super AI, it's going to get to a point where that thing can invent things at such an accelerated rate, we won't even understand it. And it'll say, hey, guys, if you do this and you do that, you can have what do they call it? Hydrogen water or energy or whatever.
Do you want to know what's even creepier?
No.
So
this is how the pyramids were made.
At the same time as this AI boom, right? At the same time as this AI boom, we're at the very, very early beginning stages of quantum computing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And quantum computing, I just read the articles that come out, but they just solved the quantum computer. I can't remember if it was Google or some other company. It solved an equation that would take, I think they said if you took all the matter from the universe, something crazy like this, and created another supercomputer, it couldn't solve this problem faster than this thing can solve it. And that hasn't been paired with AI yet. So you imagine when AI and quantum computing sometime merge.
Oh yeah.
But the thing I'm excited about is the potential positive and hopeful sides of that, other than the scariest shit side, is like, for example, health. Like, are we within a half a generation from a cure to cancer, or like some of these really bad neurological diseases or stuff like that, where AI is like, what are you guys talking about? All you got to do is this. Like,
no, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's already models out there that AI has been proven in the health industry to be able to identify cancer way early.
Yeah, like 5 years
much more accuracy than these traditional methods.
That's one of my, I have some fears, but that's one of my main hopes with things like Neuralink and AI is like, maybe we'll take radical steps on these diseases that are so debilitating for so many people.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and we're like, oh,
let's say
that's it. You know,
let's say you do have a lot of fear around this anxiety, or, you know, around life in general, where everything's going. Like, how do you process that?
I don't carry a lot of fear about it.
Yeah.
I do think about my kids' lives more. I don't think in my lifetime it's going to be so scary. I do start thinking about my kids, who are mostly really young. If you just think about like where we've come from the iPhone was invented in what, 2008?
Yeah, about.
So
I don't know. Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago, right?
Really.
That's what I mean, though.
So think about now. Fast forward 50 years. Right. Think how what we've done since the internet was invented in the 90s or whatever it was. Like, and now with AI, I think the innovation curve is just going to go. So like we've already been going fast. Now we're going so fast. It's in front of how much our minds can even handle.
Yeah.
And so I think more about my kids and me. I'll be okay. I'm going to die on Earth, you know, but maybe dude, it's crazy to say, but it's possible. Our grandkids and great grandkids might not even live on Earth.
No,
that's not even a crazy thing to say.
I know.
Elon says we're going to be on Mars in the next 5 years.
I just don't think we have anything to worry about. Maybe I'm overly
nothing to worry about.
Wow. Dude, this is why I like Bryce.
That's a little. I'd say that's a little delusional.
This is why I like building a business with Bryce. We could be literally taking ass in the face all day. Every problem comes our way. It's like,
we're gonna figure it out.
We're all right.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure it out. I have, maybe it's naive of me, but I have more faith in the human race than I think most people do. I think we're going to figure it out. There's some scary things, and you think about what AI is capable of, and the movies in Hollywood make it seem like it's the apocalypse that's coming. And but I think we're smarter than that. I think that we're going to figure out how to use all these advances in technology to our benefit, and it's going to be an amazing world to live in whenever that does happen. Yeah, there could be some scary stuff that happens, but I don't think humans are going to let it get to the point where it's a extinction event for us.
Maybe it'll save an extinction.
It could.
Extinction event.
Yeah. I mean, I think it could go either way.
Well, it could.
I mean, I think
that is the reality.
Sure, it could.
I kind of don't.
Should, but.
I kind of am like, one thing I believe I know is true is, what does Dave Ramsey say? The one thing you can count on is change.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that will always happen. I do embrace just the role of life, the tech, the advancement, the change. Like, that is just a constant. So I have always adopted reinvent yourself, find a way.
Be an early adopter.
Figure things out. Like, and. Don't be afraid of it either, because you're not going to stop it.
No. And if you pay attention, I've been thinking a lot about this. Now, the example I'll give will be about like the economy, for example, but I think it actually applies to all of life. If you pay attention to the people that they start getting cynical and bitching about all these, whether that be a change in the way the economy or something in their life or new laws, if you pay attention to those people, they really get stuck and they don't really, they don't evolve to where their life doesn't get better. But if you watch other people that they embrace that change and they figure out how to adapt to it, that's when people, that's when they get rich, not just monetarily. That's when if you pay attention, that's when people get rich. in all aspects of life is when they go, okay, well, this is just the way that it is now, and now I got to adapt. Hunters have to do the same thing, right? New laws come out every year. New things come out all the time. And some people, God dang, the daggum wolves and the new mule deer restrictions in Montana. Gosh darn it, my family's been hunting until November 30th for 40 years. Now I can't, no one's going to shoot a big, somebody's going to find a way to shoot a big buck.
Yeah.
And then next year when they cut it down to, I heard they're thinking about cutting it down to October 31st. There's going to be people that figure out a way to shoot a big buck when it's like that. My point is like you said, and Rogan always says this, humans are like, basically we reproduce and we make better stuff and we never stop. We're like literally we're just constantly innovating. So there's no way it's stopping no matter what our opinions about it all. So you have a choice. You can just sit back and bitch about it for the rest of your life and be really bitter.
That's my point.
And I'm never getting a daggum iPhone. I'm going to use my flip phone. I'm not getting a phone. It's okay. I'm going to figure out, gosh, I get a lot of information out. I become a smarter human by using my iPhone. Yes, it has downsides too, but if you figure out ways you can utilize these changes to your advantage, you become better.
Yeah, I agree. I also, from a philosophical standpoint, about life, I just think I'm here to be challenged.
Yeah.
The whole point was to come here, suffer a lot, grow, suffer with dignity and a smile on my face, and keep being grateful for how crazy the ride has been, and grow and adapt, and that's it. And I believe that there's a purpose to that. I have faith in God and in things greater than this, what we see in front of us today, this existence. And so I kind of look at it from that whole holistic perspective, where it's like, I never had any expectations and still don't, that I'm not going to go through hell before I die. I don't know. Maybe it all burns down. Maybe I lose all my kids, and maybe it really does just end terribly. Well, it was a great ride, dude.
Yeah.
And that's what I came here for. Really, that's where I'm here. I'm here to experience hard things and do my best. And there is meaning in that for me.
You're here for a good time, not a long time.
That's right. And so I'm just like, I don't stress about it, because you can't stop change.
Nope.
No.
And I kind of just embrace the challenge. The other day, and I've been saying this for a while, but Jocko is on the podcast. He's talking about, this subordinate guy that he's working with, and he's like, man, the weather's bad and this thing, and we didn't get our kit, and we're waiting for this. And he's like, good.
Yeah.
He's like, I love that. Good.
I know.
Good. Everything's good. Like, my wife died and the cat's dead, and good. When you approach it all like that, all of a sudden you're just like, bring it on. I'm here for it. So when I'm starting to cry because this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, it's like, good. It's what I'm here for. This is part of the challenge.
Just another opportunity to get better.
My heart breaks for certain things.
Sure.
And I mourn that loss, and then I turn my energy toward gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to learn that lesson, over the last year and a half or whatever.
Yep. I think Bryce has a hard stop. Speaking of
you got to roll.
Life changing.
You're right.
Yeah.
Boys basketball banquet waits for no one.
Bring your checkbook.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey, will you buy us a cool hunt or something?
Yeah, sure. Silent auction.
Oh, thanks for joining me tonight.
That devolved out of our Teepee.
I mean, I think it was great.
Yeah, it's life. It's I appreciate having you guys support me all the time, coming on the show, working with me.
Yeah, you're awesome.
This has been
oh yeah, man,
fun ride. So
this is part of the fun ride.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
folks, thanks for tuning in. Let us know what you think. If you've got questions, leave them in the comment section. We'll get to it, read them there. And if you have any more, if you want to know about, I don't know, technology in the Cybertruck and all that and how to win it, let us know down there.
You can also buy stuff on our website with the code.
Gritty. The code Gritty.
PeaxEquipment.com.
Look at this guy selling for you.
That's right.
I'm shameless,
I recommend, if you didn't know it, I'd recommend the Peax Teepee. Thank you, Brinker.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next episode. Stay gritty.